I've been at this same company for 5 years. We've had so many versions of the monthly metrics meeting, and what has always been missing is something like this, because what we do is we have the numbers and then we debate why did that go up? Why did that go
Theories
down?
and
And this is what makes it actionable because now it's like, "Hey, here's an insight about why that number went up or down or why it stayed the same and what went up and down within it." And then you can actually start to have an actionable conversation, which is, okay, well, let's dig into to what's happening there. How do we get more mobile users or how do we do XYZ? I'm like, let's go focus our energy on that instead. So this is a game changer, yes, on the week to week level, but also at the executive reporting level and leadership.
I think it's a very helpful. And I know you said that you can't make recommendations around the actions, but I think it's a moment when the metric as a measurement function is augmenting into educational function. Because if you really understand the underlying dimensions behind the metric, you can make this actionable.
right.
And transparency is a key here. But I think you also need to have a willingness on the audience to understand and dive a little bit deeper into these definitions, right? That's why it's important that when you're building the framework around metrics, you want to limit the volume of metrics to those that really matter to you and your organization, right? Because if you have too much, I mean, you almost don't know what to follow, right? You can measure these things, that's okay, but you're going to follow only a few. And those few will become the core element of your organizational focus. And the more transparency you have around that, the more action you're going to have around this too as well, right? So you go deeper into this educational element of the metric, and we're often forgetting about that dimension. So, to your earlier point, you still can't make this actionable if you really spend enough time understanding it.
Right. Well, I think that to your point, like a really good metric is something that corresponds to a business lever, that corresponds to something that is ideally inherently actionable, right? Where you know what discussion is you need to have. And yeah, I think to echo what Lizzie said, if you spend less time in those metrics reviews arguing over discrepancies, arguing over where data came from, arguing over why something happened and what segment is responsible, then hopefully you have the space to have those conversations.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I see there's a lot of description here, right? So I see a lot of reluctant users to switch to anything that is the auto-generated type of insight. The main concern these individuals have is that a lot of times the AI hallucinates.
Right.
How do you mitigate that risk with your platform?